We'll see you on Wednesday right here on the Altitude Radio Network.
This has been the Avalanche Aftermath Postgame Show with Mark Bertinoli. Ladies and gentlemen, network producers are Jesse Trujillo, Alan Baca, Steve Nelson, Mark Springer, Jordan Berg, Dan Tanner, and Cole Smith. Network creative director is Marky Lindemulder. Network production director is Steve Cassidy. Traffic directors are Megan Rose and Tig Tantiwangumpai. Network sales manager is Dan Stores. Network director is Kevin Shockey. Chief network engineer is Jason Gorodetzer. Senior vice president of the Altitude Radio Network is Dave Fleck.
You want a hard-working team? There it is right there.
This broadcast was a presentation of the National Hockey League and the Altitude Radio Network.
Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Colorado Avalanche post-game coverage continues now with Between the Pipes. Presented by Safeway. Download the Safeway app and get exclusive grocery offers and perks. Fresh foods, local flavors. Now, let's go Between the Pipes with Alex Ryan-Emmy and Mark Springer.
Chicago wins at Dickinson. High in the zone. Shot tipped. Save made by Annunen again off his shoulder. Sam Girard one-hands it. Glove by Ross Colton into the neutral zone. 3 seconds to go. 2 seconds. 1. Sound the horn. It's back-to-back 5-0 shutouts for Justus Annunen and the Colorado Avalanche against Chicago. "36 saves tonight, 24 Thursday in the Windy City. And Justus Annunen has been perfect against Chicago. Every single win that the Avalanche had against the Blackhawks this season was by shutout. 4-0 on the home opener. 5-0 last week and 5-0 tonight. Annunen, his second career shutout and his second clean sheet in as many nights. Final score from a raucous Ball Arena in downtown Denver. It's the Avalanche 5 and the Blackhawks 0.
Welcome to Between the Pipes, presented by Safeway here on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Alex Ryan-Emmy alongside Steve Nelson behind the glass. And as always, my partner and co-host, the radio machine, Mark Springer, on a night in which the Avs pummel the Chicago Blackhawks by a score of 5-0. They get a 4-point evening from Nathan MacKinnon, 1-1 from Cale Makar, and the first star of the night, his second start in a row against the Blackhawks, his second shutout in a row against the Blackhawks, as young Justus Annunen sees 37 Chicago shots, stops every single one of them to become the first rookie goaltender in Avs or Nordiques history to record shutouts in back-to-back appearances. The longest shutout streak by any netminder in franchise history is 3 straight games, obviously by the great Patrick Waz. We welcome you into the program. 303-504-0925 is where you can reach us in the Shop Mazda text line tonight. Watch the program, twitch.tv/AltitudeSR on the Safeway Twitch stream. Spring, obviously not a night that we're going to read all that much into. Chicago's terrible. They're injured as hell. The only player that they've really got going for them right now is Connor Bedard. You can say a bit about Seth Jones at this point right now, but a 5-0 win isn't all that much to write home about. Justus Annunen was very, very good.
Look, living in a world of seven.
I'm rooting for Chicago. Let's go. Get that 8th seed. If the Avs were to play Chicago in the playoffs, they would sweep the series and the aggregate score would be 20-0. Now 5-0 a few nights ago, 5-0 tonight. Add 2 more 5-0s, that would be 20-0. I'm not gonna get my hopes up though, but man, that would be awesome. The story was Eustace Onanen.
They may be mathematically eliminated
Nope.
at this point.
There's no E. No team has officially been mathematically eliminated.
They've got 20 games remaining.
All-
If they were to win there's no way. That would be 75 points.
All you have to do is root really hard.
You are right. They are not mathematically eliminated, but all that needs to happen is LA needs to win 2 more games.
I'm going to root for it.
Nashville needs to win 2 more games, and that's it.
Okay. Well,
Vegas
wait.
So you're
would have to
telling
win a
me
single one.
there's a chance?
There's 3 teams right now with under 75 points. Vegas, LA, and Nashville. Vegas has 73. LA and Nashville have 72. So,
Hey, spoiler alert for
someone could go 1-19 down the stretch.
spoiler alert for Bet the Pipes at the end of the show. I got a couple picks I like for tomorrow. I like Montreal to go into Nashville and win. So 8-game winning streak coming to an end. And how about you lose
Let's get weird.
18 of your last 20? Just going to need the Blackhawks to also get red hot. And then the Avs could play them in the playoffs. And the Avs would just need to get that 1 seed because I'm assuming that then Chicago sneaks in as the 8. And the Avs,
I can't go along with this pick.
the Avs are only 4 points back of Vancouver, so it could happen. No games in hand there, too, between the Avs and the Canucks. 4 points back. Both teams have played 63 games. Yeah, the story's Eustace Onanen, man. Stoning Connor Bedard on a breakaway, glove save of Connor Bedard on a power play in the first period. There's a really nice movement play in the crease for him. Blackhawks power play. It was the Foligno out there for Chicago. And man, Eustace has some size. He covered the crease very well in that play. Like moving right to left, but he almost didn't even need to move. He was covering the entire crease with his positioning. He's 6'4". You know, he's 23 years old. He was a 3rd-round pick in 2018. And we've talked about Eustace Onanen on this show a lot over the past few years, just knowing that he was their number 1 goaltending prospect. And look, spending a 3rd-round pick on a goaltender it's actually no joke. Goaltenders are drafted far differently than any other position in hockey. I was thinking about this today. The only thing you could really compare the drafting of goaltenders to, sport to sport, and it's not a perfect comparison. You understand why? Kickers and punters in football, like it's just goalies. They go in the first round, but they don't really go top 10.
No, there's a few of them. Yaroslav Askarov, who's going to be the next starter in Nashville as early as next season. Spencer Knight went as a first rounder to Florida.
What was the Nashville dude? Because Spencer Knight was like a 17th overall pick. You know, you're not seeing, they're like running backs maybe nowadays. You're just not seeing them drafted in the top.
Askarov was 11th overall in 2020.
Okay. Yeah, so a 3rd-round pick on a goalie is still, especially an 18-year-old kid playing in Finland.
Yeah,
like that means you liked that 18-year-old goalie.
That's an investment.
Yes. So
I would liken that to, that's a 2nd-round quarterback.
yeah. Yes.
I'll give you that. That's a 2nd-round quarterback.
Yeah.
He's Drew Lock.
Sure. Drew Locks can pan out. Not that one. Derek Carr. How about that for a
Yeah,
second
all
round
right.
pick?
I'll take it.
All right. So I don't think this is a stretch. And by the way, Eustace Onanen tonight, 37 save shutout, tied for the most saves as a rookie since Mark Denis
I love me some Mark Denis, man.
in 1999.
Dude, I loved me some Mark Denis. When they lost him to Columbus in the expansion draft, I was devastated.
Oof.
I loved Mark Denis.
And you will need to actually be my historian on this. Eustace Onanen is the best, has been the best, and the bar is low. Don't get me wrong. The best Avs goaltending prospect since blank, because he really has been their best, like, drafted, homegrown goaltending prospect. He's been their best in some time. Not that he's been this heralded prospect, but a fairly good one. And for the Avs, that is actually pretty high on the list in their history of goaltending prospects.
They spent a third on Spencer Martin in 2013, who's still in the league. They spent a second on Calvin Pickard in 2010, who is up and down, but still playing
honestly,
games.
dude, sneaky okay for Edmonton this year.
Yeah, sneaky okay. He bridged the gap when they were terrible to Stuart Skinner, allowing them to get into what is now a top 3 seed.
He's their backup, and he's actually okay.
So Picard's still in the league, and Picard was, when he was a Seattle Thunderbird in the WHL, Calvin Pickard was a stud. That dude was setting records left, right, and center. Outside of that, man, maybe you can go Peter Budaj in the second round all the way back in like 2001.
Mm-hmm.
But Mark Denny, he was a first-round pick. Denny was a first-round pick, and he was supposed to be the next guy. And he was until Columbus picked him up, and you weren't allowed to have him on the team anymore.
Is it too overreactionary?
He's the best since Picard.
And look, I remember Calvin Pickard,
Or Pickard, however you want to pronounce it.
I remember, him coming up with the Avs, and he was a good prospect, but didn't work out. That's fine. That's going to happen with a lot of these goaltenders. So I suppose as of now we could put him in this class, but tonight, too early, too soon for me to give a bold proclamation that this is the goaltender of the future for the Avalanche.
Certainly not next year. That's Georgiev's net, since he's still got one more year.
Correct.
But
after that, when Georgiev's contract next year is up,
he'll be 25. You would assume if this stays, and again, I do not want to look too much into 2 shutout victories against arguably the worst team in the National Hockey League,
of
but
course.
He has looked good. And what's been good for me about Justus Onanen is that he's looking like he's more up to pace. That's been the main thing about Justus when he's come up into the NHL. For me, he's looked sluggish. He's looked slow to react. He's looked slow post to post. And over the last 3 games, the 2 shutouts against Detroit and the 2-1 loss in overtime against Detroit, the 2 shutouts against Chicago and the 2-1 overtime loss against the Red Wings, he's looked at pace. And as you said, he's got the size. They have loved him. They do love a Finnish netminder. They had Sami Aitakallio all those years ago that they thought was going to turn into a real good netminder. So did I. He was a great World Junior goalie there. I see it. I see that him possibly being a starter in this league. And it's because he's up to pace, not because they just drafted him in the second round pick?
Third round pick.
Sorry, just because they drafted him in the 3rd round doesn't mean that I think he can be a starter. Now that I'm seeing him get up to pace, I believe he can be a full-time backup as early as next season. And if the Avs do not want to part way with either a prospect or an important middle round pick that could help them get a second center this year, I can't believe I'm saying this, I think I could be okay with him being your backup going into the playoffs. I
absolutely, I am 100% comfortable now.
You know how big of a leap that is for me to make.
Because for me, it's been, and maybe Marc-Andre Fleury would have been a guy who was certainly on paper, and with a veteran like that, like even though Fleury has struggled a little bit over the past couple seasons, like guys like that, when they get into the playoffs and the lights are bright, they can just find their best game even at an older age. So, okay, you could have talked me into Marc-Andre Fleury. In terms of if Georgiev were to get hurt, goaltenders who would still give them a realistic chance to win the cup, he might honestly have been the only one. So short of that, why not just go with Justus? If nobody else,
there's netminders out there that, like, I'd feel if Georgiev went down with an injury and could not play for you this year, I would feel far more comfortable with Jake Allen, Kaapo Kähkönen, Marc-Andre, far more confident than an unproven kid who, and again, he has looked really, really good as of late. But you're going to entrust another year of this core to a dude who has 9 total games in the National Hockey League, and his biggest wins are against the worst team in the NHL.
Everyone starts somewhere. You talk about him finally getting up to speed which I think we could, his best start where it was like, okay, there it is, where, there's a moment of the aha moment. It maybe clicked for him was in Detroit.
Yeah,
so,
third period.
So three starts ago, tonight was his 9th career start. So you're talking about his 7th career start in which, for a 23-year-old kid, it took 7 starts to finally start to look like something. That's right on pace. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Jake Allen, Kaapo Kähkönen, solid backup
goaltenders. They've been there.
goaltenders.
That's the thing. They've done it. They've gone through playoff runs.
It's over.
It's not.
If you have Jake Allen or Kaapo Kähkönen, you are honestly just as good going with Eustace.
No, you're not.
It's over.
No, that's insane. It's insane. 9 starts, dude. 9 starts. Listen, I like how he has looked. I really have. I've enjoyed how he's looked, but the game logs that he has a win against Chicago, an overtime loss against what might be the 8 seed in the Eastern Conference in Detroit. He has a loss against Tampa where he let up 4 goals, a loss against New Jersey when New Jersey was not who we thought they were going to be this year. Nobody was playing for them at the time. Gave up 4 goals in that one. He beat Ottawa while giving up 4 goals in that game as well, and Ottawa's going to be a lottery team this year. So those games tell you, yeah, he's better than Jake Allen, who has a top 15 goals saved against average this year. You're telling me that you're better with a 9-game rookie?
Here's another piece of ammo
than a guy who's been there and has gone through Western Conference final battles and Jake Allen?
Here's another piece of ammo for my argument. To go get Jake Allen, to go get Kaapo Kähkönen, whoever, any goaltender of that ilk. While solid goaltenders, certainly solid backups, cost an asset. They cost a price.
Correct.
Eustace Onanen is already on your team and costs absolutely nothing. You don't have to part with anything to keep him. And it really for me is that if Georgiev gets hurt, short of Fleury, you're done either way,
and possibly even with.
So why
Fleury.
part with an asset when we saw what happens when this team has to go? Save for Pavel Francouz when they had to go to Michael Hutchinson. It's over. It's over. For Francouz is better than Allen or any guy you could trade for. So it's over. If Georgiev gets hurt, I'd honestly rather just say, hey, possible goaltender of the future, let's see what you got.
Yeah, see what he can do.
Let's put you into the deep end of the pool, and let's see what you can do.
I would tend to think that you're probably toast regardless. I think it's wildly short-sighted to say that a veteran netminder who has many more not only playoff games than Onanen has just games in general under his belt in North America. I think it's wildly short-sighted to say that you would have just a marginally better chance with that veteran netminder. I think you would be screwed regardless. I think you getting through the West without Georgiev and having to rely on Jake Allen to be your netminder, I don't think you're getting through the West. But you are in a far better position than entrusting this core and one more playoff run of this core, if Georgiev gets hurt, to a 23-year-old with 9 career starts and his only wins coming against, let's be completely honest, either crap NHL teams or teams that might just barely sneak into the playoffs this year. Come on.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the spot starts that Eustace gets the rest of the season. I hope they put him out there against a higher level of opponent, and I think that in Detroit fit that bill because Detroit was playing pretty darn well going into that game. Here's Alex on the text line, and I saw somebody put this sentiment out there on Twitter. I don't think they'll do it, but Eustace got round 2 against Chicago tonight. Give him round 2 against Detroit on Wednesday.
Coming off a shutout, I would. Coming off of a shutout in which the last Georgiev start was one of the more uninspired periods we've seen this year, the third period against Nashville.
But that wasn't his fault.
No, I certainly put it on the team in front of him. But there's a nickname going out there, Forgiev. That's another start where he gives up 4 or more.
Look,
I can't take credit for the hi-hat there. I really can't.
I've seen that term put out there on Twitter. Look, real quick on the Nashville game. Dude, the Avs were just bad.
Yeah, they were so bad.
They got maybe that's actually too harsh. Nashville was very physical in that game, and the Avs did not match that at all. I don't put that game on Georgiev.
I'd play him there. Why not? I'd play him against Detroit.
And obviously, I'm a Georgiev guy, but I am intrigued by Eustace.
And that gives 5 full days of rest for Georgiev in between Nashville and then what would be a home start against divisional rival Minnesota on Friday evening.
What happens if they do go with Eustace on Wednesday, which would be interesting?
And he looks great.
What would that do?
I think you have to go back to Georgiev and hope that there's like a little bit of a fire underneath his ass.
Uh-huh.
And if he shows up and gives up 4 again, and then you go back to Onninen, let's say Tuesday against Calgary, and he stands on his head again, you would have the loudest goaltending controversy that we have had here all season long. Because your next game would be Wednesday against the number 1 team in the West in Vancouver. And in that situation, you would have Onninen coming off of, let's say, 4 wins in 5 starts, including 2 shutouts, an overtime loss in which he gave up only 2 goals, and then your last couple of Georgiev starts would be a big loss to Nashville, let's say a loss to Minnesota in which he gives up 4. And I don't think that would happen. I think they're a way better team than Minnesota. A lot of things would have to happen for that to really play out.
Look, I'm just always such a big fan of the homegrown prospects. You know, I talked a lot about it with Logan O'Connor, but he's undrafted. I love the drafted guys even more a little bit, especially a third round goalie. And when you look around the landscape of the Western Conference, you know, I mean, Jake Ottinger, first round pick, right? First round pick. It seems so obvious. That he's the future of the West. Hey, sometimes life throws you curveballs. I'm curious to see the development of Eustace. I do think there is something there. Am I getting a little ahead of myself? Probably, but I like to have fun. I like to talk about the fun possibilities, and I see something here. I think that, you know, the Avs have not drafted well outside of the top 10. That's just a fact. This could be the one. This could be the mid-round pick that they have been missing on for years. Eustace could be the hit.
And if you're going to hit on a mid-round pick, chances are it's going to be a netminder.
Mm-hmm. Because they that's where they go. They end up going second, third round, some first. And not all the first-round guys pan out.
I mean, in the West, there are a lot of first-round draft picks there. First and second-round draft picks. Demko's a second-rounder. UC Saros, I believe, is a second-rounder. No, he's a fourth-rounder. Wow. UC Saros is a fourth-rounder. Jordan Binnington was either undrafted or deep in the... Binnington is a third-rounder, as I'm guessing off the top of my head. Jacob Markstrom in Calgary, who maybe dealt on Friday, was the first pick of the second round in 2008.
Connor Hellebuck was a fifth-round pick.
Yeah, so that's where you find him, man.
Mm-hmm.
You do find some studs in the first. Like there is a Marc-Andre Fleury out there who's a number 1 overall. There's a first-rounder in Carey Price, right? Those things happen. And it just so happens that those 2 dudes are generational, right? Like I will die on this hill. Peak Carey Price is the best goaltender that we've seen in the last 20 years in this league. Since Patrick Waugh and Martin Brodeur left this league, the best guy at his peak, the most consistent when he was healthy, and the most technically sound was Carey Price. The fact that Montreal wasted that dude is an absolute travesty to hockey fans. He was that freaking good. He was better than Vasilevsky. He was better than Lundqvist. He was better than anyone that's in the league right now. And that includes Marc-Andre Fleury, who's a top 3 winning goaltender of all time. Those guys are number 1 overall, right? But you find these other ones that are mid-round picks. You find the Igor Shesterkins of the world who happen to be mid picks. You find Ilya Sorokin, who's an 18th pick in the 3rd round. You are right. That's where you find these guys. He could be one of them. Who knows?
Exciting times.
It is.
Remember that backup goaltender conversation we were having? I'm glad that it's resolving itself. At least I think it is.
I hope it is. And you could be seeing fires lit underneath these goaltenders' butts down or up and down the ladder of the organization, right? So like Eustace goes down into the American League, and then who gets called up is Ivan Prosvetov. He sticks up here for a while, then starts unfortunately faltering. Eustace plays well in the American League. They switch spots, right? Onanen comes up. He doesn't look great. And at the same time, Prosvetov turns in Star Wars numbers over the last month and a half for the Eagles.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. He was the goaltender of the week.
The dude put up a 950 save percentage. He was nuts. Absolutely nuts, right? So what does that tell Eustace? Oh crap, I got to start playing better. If this is my chance, right? If I want to be on this Avs roster, if I want my name engraved on a cup, I need to pick it up right now. So if that's what's happening with Eustace and with Prosvetov, who's to say it can't happen with Alexander Georgiev as well?
I love it.
He's
Love
Mark
that theory.
Springer. I'm Alex Ryan. It's Between the Pipes, presented by Safeway on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5.
Ross Colton brings it ahead, 2-on-1, over for Drouin! No! They say no! Drouin is celebrating, it's waved off on the ice. Drouin is convinced that puck went in the net. And now I think they say that's in the net. You bet it is! How you, Drouin? His first goal in 20 games.
That ball hit deep. Way back. Maxwell at the wall, jumps. What is it? You can put it, no, safe. You can put it on the board or what? Anyway, he's coming around. You can put it on the board. Yes! Home run. There was no call late. And the Sox lead it 4-3.
Be gone. Be gone. Hawk Harrelson, baby.
Put it on the board.
Yes.
Steve
That's
Nelson,
a great call.
Producer extraordinaire. What a cut. Jonathan Drouin, 2 minutes and 38 seconds remaining in the first period of play, goes back bar. His 11th of the season put the Avs up 2-0. They would add 3 more. Cale Makar's 14th of the year, Zach Parise's 4th of the season, and Nathan MacKinnon would score a power play goal late, his 39th tuck of the year. Avs win 5-0 at home. They continue to roll on home ice this year. They are they're damn near unbeatable. They have 24 wins in 30 games, far and away the best home record in the National Hockey League. Between the Pipes on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5 is brought to you by Safeway. Safeway now offers drive-up prescription pickup with your drive-up and go groceries. Save time while Safeway brings your prescriptions to you. Plus, get $30 off your first drive up and go order. See Safeway.com for details. Mark Springer and I have been talking a lot about Justus Onen and his starring role. Back-to-back appearances with shutouts against those Chicago Blackhawks. 37 shots, 37 saves. But you wanted to talk about the blender. Jared Bednar mixing up the lines. And while it is the Blackhawks, and Nathan MacKinnon did say, listen, I understand, 4-point night, but it was the Blackhawks. What'd you like about it?
Well, hey, you heard Jonathan Drouin scoring there. There was a little
Mark Denny.
There was a little confusion, but that puck did go Drouin the net. It went Drouin. See what I did there? His name ends in IN. And
good for you, bud.
Jonathan Drouin had some new line mates tonight. He's playing with on a new second line, a new look second line with Ross Colton centering it and Zach Parise on the other wing. Ryan Johansson, Miles Wood, Yoel Kiviranta, your third line, although pretty even minute distribution between those two lines. And Chris Wagner, Andrew Cogliano, Logan O'Connor on the fourth line. So, look, I mean, it was good tonight. It was Chicago, though, right? And like when I saw that they were changing the lines tonight, I didn't love it. Like, even though the Avs didn't play well, like I didn't like the skaters, specifically the forwards. I didn't like them at all, except for Nathan MacKinnon in Nashville. Actually, I take that back because the one line I did like was the Johansson, Drouin, Parise line. I thought it was the only line in its totality that was actually okay against Nashville. I thought MacKinnon was good all game. I thought Lehkonen was good for half the game. Don't want to talk about Mikko Rantanen. And then the Roaring 20s line was not good against Nashville. So,
that ship may have sailed.
Well, and I wonder if tonight was a soft test for the Avs are back at home. Was Valeri Nichushkin going to play tonight? Because the thought was maybe he'd play when they got back home. No, he didn't. Is he playing on Wednesday against Detroit? And when he's back, look, just how Ross Colton was second-line center tonight, he's probably going to have to be second-line center going forward with Nichushkin back.
Right, so you would run Colton with Drouin and Nichushkin? And then you drop Parise down to the third line with Johansson and Miles Wood.
Well, you could keep you could make a debate between Parise and Drouin. Zach Parise has
Production's
looked
through
great.
the roof.
He's looked great since signing here.
8 points in 14 games, if I'm correct now.
He's looked great, and Drouin's still looking good. So that's a tough one between who you keep up there on the second line.
It is a tough one. What I do read a lot into Logan O'Connor and I say this lightly, being dropped down to the fourth line. It's not being dropped down to the fourth line. It's getting him back in rhythm with Andrew Cogliano.
Sure.
Like, if you're looking for the postseason lineup, and that's what they are, right? You have fewer than 20 games remaining. You are now tinkering to see what you have going into the playoffs. You need to make sure that your chemistry, your gel between your lines, between your line mates in particular, is perfect by the time that April 22nd rolls around. What we know of the Avs, Cogliano and O'Connor are studs together, especially in the playoffs. While O'Connor worked well with Wood and Colton during the year, I think this team, when fully healthy, especially having Nichushkin back and possibly adding another forward by the time that Friday's trade deadline rolls around, you want to have O'Connor and Cogliano on the same page, not only on penalty kill, but on 5-on-5. So I like that a lot. I agree with you. Parise has any spot that you put in the middle six for Zach Parise, I'm in. That dude's legit.
Dude, if push came to shove, he could play on the top line. I mean, he looks like
pace.
Zach Parise. He looks like the good old American forward that we've seen for the past 10 plus years. He looks every bit of it.
I wish he could have been on this team like 4 years ago.
Well, the good news is that, with, the rest that he's had, his legs are fresh. You're getting it right now. Like, it looks like him. It doesn't look like old Zach Parise. Now, I'm not saying that maybe it's not like peak, but he looks good.
Again, I don't understand why more athletes don't do this, right? And I always go back to it. This is Roger Clemens in the mid-2000s.
Sure.
This is when Clemens was like, yeah, I'm hanging out on my ranch in Texas, and when the Astros decide to call me up, I will go and pitch for them in, early August. And then if we make the playoffs, awesome. I'll go on a run. I don't know why more players don't do this in the latter half of their career, or certainly in the final few seasons where, at 39 years and you've been playing this game for how long, Zach Parise, right? He's been in the league for damn near 18 seasons, if I'm correct. Again, off the top of my head, don't know it actually. More guys his age should take the first half of the season off, sign a vet minimum deal with some incentives, and hope you can win a cup. And because 82 games for Parise, he'd peter out halfway through. But you're asking him for 40 at the most this year?
That's brilliant.
That motor can work for 40.
Great decision by him. He came into February having received 0 hits in the months of October, November, December, and January. That's the ideal number of hits you want to take on your 39-year-old body is 0. So I don't know why. Maybe it's a money thing for some guys, because it's clearly no money thing for Zach. He wants to win. He's 39.
Yeah, he signed one of the biggest tickets in NHL history.
He's never won a cup. He wants to win one, and he chose this team for a reason. He could have signed with other teams. He chose this team for a reason.
I did like the lines. And I like that you can spot Drouin anywhere in the top 9. You don't have to, and that was my big, right? What was the first thing I said about Jonathan Drouin? If he does not fit in as right wing 1, he does not fit on this team. Mm-hmm. And he's proven me completely wrong.
Yeah.
He slots in on any one of the right wing spots in the top 9 of this team. He has proven to me that he can play with Nathan McKinnon. He has proven to me that he can play with Ross Colton and Zach Parise, and he's proven to me that he can play a third line role as the skill guy with a slower paced Ryan Johansson and a body forward Miles Wood. Like, Drew, that guy is good, and unfortunately he's going to cost you so much money next year.
Yeah.
I wish you could have re-signed him. And I don't know what it's going to be. Like, maybe do you think you could get him on the Miles Wood ticket? Maybe it's a $3 million a year average annual value. If you signed to $3 million a year, I think he's worth it.
Yeah, all these numbers are so tight, and new dudes coming up for contracts who whether it's Byram or whoever, whenever, it's so tough. It's so tough to forecast. But look, Drouin was a hit on his vet minimum deal. It was the best case scenario that's playing out for him that was always possible. You just never know, and it's played out. And then to get Zach Parise on that same type of deal. So you're getting two dudes playing like they should be making at least $3.5–4 million for a combined like under $2 million. That is huge.
Let's head on out to the phone lines. Rich has been waiting patiently on hold. Rich, you're live on 92.5 with Raj and Spring. What you got?
Good evening, gentlemen. Well, I was going to be a bit of a Debbie Downer tonight, but I think you guys have kind of talked me back to the ledge.
Hold on. What were you going to be a Debbie Downer about? They won 5-0.
Well, not this game specifically, but what they did, what you guys said. It was the Blackhawks, and I'll cite a little story. I don't know if you guys saw it, but in the Nashville loss at 3-1. It was about the 6.5-minute mark when it was 3-1, and I saw it on the altitude feed. I don't know if you guys happened to catch it. Bedsy was kind of tasking to McKinnon, and McKinnon scratched his nose with his middle finger, and basically he held it up there pretty long time.
No. You're putting some Reynolds rap on right there, man. You're spending way too long staring at the screen trying to find something.
Well, they held it on there for quite a while. I was just kind of curious, but I mean, they had a pretty bad game in Nashville, and they, another thing, gentlemen, that's concerning me is their lack of wins post All-Star game. I mean, this is the time of the season they've got to be ramping it up, and they're getting killed in the face-off circles too. But
they got killed in the face-off circle for years. They got absolutely roasted on the dot the year that they went 16-4 in the playoffs, and I thank you for your call as always. Face-offs only matter when they matter. Like the Avs were terrible on the dot. Terrible for years. They were like a bottom 5 team in the NHL when they won the Cup in 2022. Bottom 5. And it didn't freaking matter because they handled the puck. They outscored their problems. They got decent goaltending. I mean, that's not. We're not picking bones here like that tonight. I can't do that. I can't.
I mean, you know me. I am and remain high on the Avs. Despite the loss in Nashville. Whatever. Did they look good in Nashville? No, they did not. And is this Chicago tonight? Was it Chicago and Eustace's first shutout? Yes.
They won the face-off battle tonight too. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
As this team just continues to show, they will throw stinkers out there. I mean, you talk about their face-off struggles over the course of this window that they've been in. Yes, they've been a bad face-off team this entire window. Nazem Kadri gave them some semblance of being an okay face-off team when they won the Cup, but he just made them okay. It's not like Nazem Kadri made them a great face-off team. He made them okay. They've always struggled in that department. Like, that's not Nathan McKinnon's forte. He's okay at it. Ross Colton's okay at it. But, that's never been their strong point. And even save for the Kadri season, this team has always gone through tough stretches.
You want to hear the top 10 in faceoffs this year? Toronto, who I don't think can get out of the second round.
Toronto screwed me so hard tonight. I hate those guys.
You bet the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight against Boston?
Well, Toronto
is built to lose hockey games.
Well, they've been playing very well of late. Boston has been dipping of late, and then it was I guess that's
Send
exactly
me a
what it
text,
was.
buddy. I would have talked you off that ledge.
I should have gone with Florida.
All right,
that's
so
what I should have done.
Toronto is 10th best in the league in faceoff percentage, and I think they're going to get bounced in the second round this year in the East. Ottawa, lottery team, 9th. Montreal, possibly a lottery team, 8th. Buffalo, not going to make the playoffs, 7th. Then you get Boston, good team. Pittsburgh, not going to make the playoffs, 5th. Philadelphia, maybe. They're on the bubble in the East, 4th. Rangers, solid shoe-in, cup contender. Islanders, Devils. What are we doing with the face-off?
Well, and let's just say, for all the struggles that the Avs have had since the All-Star break, Wednesday night should be the return of Valeri Nichushkin, and that has contributed to some of their struggles. Like when you don't have Valeri Nichushkin, and when some games since the break, Nathan MacKinnon has been your only forward who has been playing up to his ilk. I mean, the two best forwards this season for the Avs have been Nathan MacKinnon. He's number one. Valeri Nichushkin, number two. I mean, the numbers would say Rantanen, number three. Nichushkin's been your second best forward this season. And he has been out going back to even before the break. So that has to have contributed to some of their struggles, and he will be back on Wednesday night. So, look, Valeri Nichushkin makes a world of difference with this team.
I want to put a bow on the face-off conversation. Pretty much the first time that Chris MacFarland and Joe Sakic decided to get a player for how good he is at face-offs, do you know who that was? Who that is, rather? It's Ryan Johansson. How well has that worked when they went after a guy who is his best asset, Ryan Johansson, at this point in his career, is him winning face-offs? Ask yourself, how has that worked? Don't die on that hill. There are way taller, more strenuous hills to die on as an Avs fan than the face-off hill. You can be upset about the fact that their D-core is undersized and is more offensive-minded. You can be upset about the fact that they don't have all that great of goaltending depth, or they don't have that great of starting goaltending in terms of the numbers this year. You can be upset about the fact that they don't play well on the road. You can be upset about the fact that they've gotten inconsistent depth scoring over the past 5 years. I just gave you 5 hills. Don't die on the face-off hill. Let's take one more call before we go to a break. Dan's been waiting patiently. Dan, you're live on 92.5 with Raj and Spring.
Hey,
Dan, you got us?
Yeah.
What's up, man? What you got?
Well, is the Nichushkin going to play? They're just going to mix and match him with see where he fits pretty much with the ice time.
Yeah,
really said.
You can expect Nichushkin to slot anywhere in the top 6. I would expect him to play alongside Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen, much like he did over the past couple of postseasons. If they want to keep Leckie, MacKinnon, and Rantanen together, he would then play the left wing alongside Ross Colton and either Jonathan Drouin or Zach Parise.
Is this guy, this prospect they got from McDermott, is he a project or is he Project.
He was traded for Curtis McDermott, so his value's not great.
He did have 9 shots on goal in a game in the playoffs against Torpedo a couple of days ago in the KHL for SKA St. Petersburg, if that tickles your fancy.
He's really young.
Yeah, he's like a 22 or 23-year-old Russian prospect. He's a long shot. If he plays a game in the NHL, check mark for McFarland on a good trade. It's that type of thing. They moved McDermott because they wanted to free up $1 million in cap space and a roster spot.
Appreciate the phone call there, Dan. Yeah, hey, you got a 7th round pick for Curtis McDermott.
More than a bag of pucks, man.
That's more than nothing. And this guy, Zakar or something, hey, again, more than a bag of pucks, as you just said.
9 shots on goal. Torpedo's not a good team, but 9 shots on goal.
Hey, I'm not going to hold my breath on him because he was traded for Curtis McDermott. Like, you're not trading the next Wayne Gretzky for Curtis McDermott. If that happens, the New Jersey Devils have to cease to exist.
Yeah, you imagine like Pavel Datsyuk is the guy that comes out of this trade. Speaking about players that were drafted like super low in their career, where was Datsyuk drafted? Datsyuk was late. 171st overall.
Seriously though, like shout out Curtis McDermott. I know some people didn't like him. I enjoyed him for what he was.
I liked Curtis McDermott. Don't get me wrong. All of the stuff I've said about Curtis McDermott as a hockey player has never been me not enjoying him or thinking that he brought something to the locker room, because he very clearly did. The team loved him. He was notably one of the most loved players in that room. He just did not fit with the system. And he was if I'm correct, I can't remember who put the stat out. He was like one of the only players in the last decade in the league to, in a consistent starting role or like rostered role, to play fewer than like 3.5 minutes on average per game.
Sure.
Just like it's just hasn't happened in the recent history of the NHL. So you were paying $1 million against the cap for him. He wasn't playing for you. He did not fit the system, didn't have the foot speed to fit the system. This was a long time coming. You got a 7th rounder and a prospect. Good on you.
But they kept him around a while, like 3 seasons or whatever it was, for a reason. They kept him around for a reason.
Don't know what it was. Until I die. If I can get Chris McFarland on Dempsey and Company over the next couple of days, maybe when I'm back, I leave for Mexico on Wednesday evening. I got to go to a wedding. I come back on Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
If I can get him on the show, I will unabashedly say, what was the point of that?
Okay.
Why did you keep him around?
Let me try to guess, and I could be wrong. Like number 1 is probably the fighting, even though he didn't fight that much he hasn't fought that much of late. That could have been the result of some big pops he took in some fights like last season where he's just like, okay, this hurts actually. So number 1 is the fighting. Number 2, just the change of pace, just the change up. Yeah.
Here's all our super fast skilled guys. You got Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar zipping by you. You got Mikko Rantanen toe dragging pucks between your legs. Then you look up and you got big old 6'6" Curtis McDermott lumbering down.
Just keep the opponent
It's just
on
a
their
mind
toes.
game is what it was.
Just make them confused. They're just standing there like, what? This doesn't make any sense. And that alone is enough to get their eye off the prize.
There's the change of pace back.
Yes.
You get lulled to sleep by an old Frank Gore, and then right out of nowhere, it's Breece Hall.
The ability to play both defense and forward. Look, they liked him. That gets him around. That tells me like it wasn't like an easy decision to part with him. Like, so if there was ever an indication that like, oh, they're going to do something, it's the fact that they moved on from Curtis McDermott, or they wouldn't have done that because then they wouldn't do anything.
Trade deadline comes up on Friday afternoon. Spring and I will touch on what we think the Avs may or may not do. Also have some stats that'll tell you, the Avs are 26-4 at home. They're NHL 500 on the road. I'll tell you why. If they do not improve that over their final 8 road games, there's no shot they win a cup. Raj and Spring, Altitude Sports Radio.
Bedard at the half wall. Tyler Johnson has it in the corner. 9-0, not 9-1. Bedard lets it go. Glove save made by Onanen. And Eustace is served. Parise works to get it loose. Drouin bouncing puck. 3-on-3 through center ice. Goes backwards instead for Byram. Sam Girard back underneath for Byram. The Hawks take it away. Now they got a breakaway. Connor Bedard. In. Bedard. Save made by Onanen! Too many moves by Connor Bedard, who hits himself in the head with his own stick. Onanen stared him down, and then he shut him down. Bedard went to the forehand, and Onanen got a piece of it with his glove, second piece with the pad.
That's how he plays. If he keeps playing like that, he's going to play a lot.
You heard it from Coach Bednar. Eustace Onanen on fire. 37 saves tonight in another shutout against the Chicago Blackhawks. Back-to-back 5 rip starts for the young netminder Eustace Onanen as we welcome you into the final segment here on Between the Pipes, presented by Safeway. Alex Ryanemi alongside Mark Springer. Been talking a lot about the backup netminder. Nathan MacKinnon's 4-point night. I feel like we haven't talked about Nathan MacKinnon going 2-2 because that's just a thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's been the Avs best player all season long.
105 points, tied with Nikita Kucherov at the top now.
And he should win the Hart. He should. There are so many reasons why it should be him.
What happens if Matthews hits 70, though?
And Nathan MacKinnon. Who's Nathan MacKinnon?
He's the best player in hockey, Isaiah Pacheco. Dude, you mean the Toronto Maple Leafs that ruined my night? No MVP played for that team tonight. I'll assure you of that.
If Matthews gets to 70, you can make the argument that 70 is such a special number that he gets it. That's still 17 goals away in 20 games remaining for Toronto. That it's not easy to do.
Okay. I get the goals scored. But part of Toronto's problem, part of why you're right, Raj, I should have consulted with you before tonight.
Yeah, they're built to lose.
Is Austin Matthews, in fact, let me pull up do you have his numbers in front of you?
I sure do.
How many assists does Austin Matthews have?
Austin Matthews currently, at this point in the season,
great
has
goal scorer.
26 assists.
26 assists. Okay, tonight, I mean, that pass from Nathan MacKinnon to Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon with assists 65 and 66 this season. Something needs to be said for all the tools, and vision and passing is one of them.
Hey, Austin Matthews, 54% in the draw.
That's your own stat that you said was overrated just 15 minutes ago. Look, it was a great, and let me give Mikko Rantanen some credit today too, all right? That Cale Makar goal was Mikko's best play in a hot second because of the forechecking that he had on that play to win that puck and get it to Nate. And then Nate with the patience to pass it kind of behind his line of vision to Cale Makar. It was a underrated, great assist from Nathan MacKinnon. So for Nate, and obviously the goals and the point and the assists add up to the points, but 66 assists. My man is a point guard out there, and I've been saying this for the past couple seasons. I've noticed the improvement in Nate's passing over the past couple seasons. That should be given, maybe not, and I understand how impressive the goal scoring is for Matthews. I get it, but the passing for MacKinnon needs to get love as well.
I think if Nate scores 50 and he still has, MacKinnon has a 26-point lead on Austin Matthews in terms of just point production. Right? So MacKinnon could win the Art Ross for most points. There's a chance that he wins the Hart for MVP. I think if MacKinnon gets to 50 goals and wins the Art Ross, I think he wins it, regardless of if Matthews hits 70. Because the gap between MacKinnon and Matthews will be, at that point, 30-some-odd points. Even though I understand how special of a number 70 is, MacKinnon will then have dragged the Avs to assumedly a top 2 seed in the Central, home ice advantage through at least the first 2 rounds of those playoffs. And then, if he gets to 50, I think he wins it.
And if anyone wants to undervalue the assist, because I feel like the goals, and they should get more love because that's finishing it, right? But it's not just the passing from Nate. His skating, just being on the ice with him, those assists display his great passing, and it displays just the natural opportunities that he creates for everybody else just by being out there. So if Austin Matthews was doing the same thing, if Austin Matthews' game was as opening for his teammates as it was for Nathan MacKinnon, then just by default, his assist numbers would be much higher.
Well, there's a reason why the Matthews conversation is only valid if he hits 70. The other 3 guys that are actually going to be the finalists likely this year, they're not in the race for the Rocket Richard. Although the race is dead, right? Like, it's Matthews and no one else's. The 3 dudes who are going to be the Hart finalists this year are the 3 top assist getters this year. McDavid has 74 this season. Kucherov has 67. MacKinnon has 66. Those 3 players are 1, 2, and 3 in points in the league. They're 1, 2, and 3 in assists in the league. Those will be your 3 Hart Trophy finalists for MVP. Much to what your point is, well, they make everyone else on their team worthwhile.
And if it's close between, and like Nathan MacKinnon's going to be it's all going to be all 3 of these in the Hart conversation. Okay, so let's just assume that it is just that, and it's close between MacKinnon, Kucherov, and Matthews. At that point, it should also just kind of turn into a legacy award in terms of Nate's never won one, Kucherov has, and Nate's been in the league longer than Matthews. So if it's just close, it should go to Nate in that respect. And if the Avs end up winning the Central...
Well, Matthews has one.
Oh, he did win Hart?
Matthews won the Hart in 2022.
Okay, I didn't even remember that.
McDavid has 3 Hart trophies.
This is what happens when you don't win. When you don't like win in the playoffs.
Kucherov has a 2019 MVP. Draisaitl won it in 20. McDavid 21. Matthews 22. McDavid 23.
Okay, then there it is. And we see this with these awards, sport to sport, all the time.
You know how much I hate awards turning into lifetime achievements, though.
But this, I'm arguing for that, but it also is still Nathan MacKinnon, It's not like I'm saying, like, it's like it's somebody of a lower tier. It's still the guy who is Matthews in the conversation? I know that some people this season are putting him in the conversation with MacKinnon and McDavid, but MacKinnon and McDavid have been the conversation for the past 4 years.
Matthews is only in the conversation because 70 might be in the picture. The 3 guys who are actually the MVP conversation are Kucherov, McDavid, MacKinnon.
And then if the
Those are your finalists.
If the Avs go and win the Central and possibly win the West, like that should do it. And even without that, it should do it. But if that happens, then it absolutely should do it.
One more call tonight. Prophet been waiting patiently through the break. What you got? You're live on 92.5.
Hey, guys. Like I was telling your call screener, very satisfying win. I think anytime you beat an NHL team, even a bad one, and it doesn't really look like you played that well. I know it sounds weird because they won 5-0, but I think Eustace, I know MacKinnon obviously would be second line, but I think I forget how to pronounce his last name, but I think he gets the I guess, can we call it the game puck for the game? I mean, to me, if I had to give a player the game, it'd have to be him. I mean, you look. I'm looking at a game that very easily could have been, 1-1, maybe 2-1, nail biter, and those saves he made. I was a little concerned when Chicago was out shooting us, but to me, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but it's kind of hard not to give him the player of the game with a close second, followed by MacKinnon.
Yeah, without a doubt. And he was first start tonight. That made sense. You stopped 37 pucks. He did look awesome. I think you're spot on there, Prophet.
Yeah, and one last thing. I know it's the day of the trying to get rich and everything, but I think the Avalanche are a steal. I haven't been giving out picks like I used to, but maybe tomorrow's another day. I think the Avalanche are a steal at plus 850 to win it all. As far as my advice to pretty sure be financially profitable, get it profitable. You take the Avalanche plus 850 to win it all. They get to the Western Conference Finals. You can hedge the other way, make money there, and then bet on the Avalanche individual games, and you'll come out ahead. That's just my advice for the future, because with you to plus 850, you already have your money if you hedge, and then just wage on the Avalanche every game until the end of the year. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I like them at 850. I appreciate the call as always, Profit. I've got them at 900 right now on my book. I don't know if I would hedge in the East because I don't know who I have out of the East. You say you have Florida, right?
Yeah, I got Florida.
I
got a rematch of the, what year was it? 95, 96?
96, first year the Avs came here from Quebec.
I've got a rematch of that.
John Van Beesbrook was in net all those years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Was Pavel Bure a Panther at that time? I don't know if he had moved over from Vancouver to...
I was 6, so it's a little tough for me. But yeah, I'm not hedging.
1996 Florida Panthers roster. Let's check out who.
Although Florida's tough, man. Like they could, if that was your Cup final, Avs Panthers.
Scott Mellenby led the team with 70 points. Oh, there was nothing to write home about the Florida Panthers that year, was there? Stu Barnes was on that team. Bill Lindsay was on that team.
Gosh, the original Vegas Golden Knights.
Tom Fitzgerald was on that team. GM currently in the league right now. A young Martin Straka, 23 years old. John Van Beesbrook was the starter, and he was probably far and away their best player. Bro, how the hell did that team get to the Cup final in 96?
So they were like I said, they were the original Golden Knights.
Dude, what happened in 95, 96 in the East?
See, but that's the thing about...
That they got through Boston?
This is where the NHL is a little different than the NBA. Like, these playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, do lend themselves a little more to some weirdness than in the NBA. In the NBA, it is typically one of the top teams that makes it through on both sides. In the NHL, you see 8 seeds make it. You can see, so I think the Avs are the best team in the West. But that does not mean that some weirdness could prevent them, especially when the margins are so thin. The Avs are the best team, but in my book at least, but by a very slim margin. So anything's possible. Anything is possible when betting the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Rumor mills are crazy right now. Obviously, a lot of people thinking that the Avs have kicked the tires on Adam Henrique and that they were possibly players in the Elias Lindholm market until it seemed like it was a little bit too pricey for them. There were rumors that they looked at Jake Allen from the Montreal Canadiens and the price got too heavy for them. Do you buy any of this right now? I think the one I buy the most is the Casey Middlestat rumor in Buffalo. He's leading the Sabres right now in points. He's a pending restricted free agent. He's still very young, former first-round pick from the Sabres. They're already gluttonous down the middle in terms of signed centermen to date, so they might not have room to keep a guy like Middlestat. And that fits the bill for Sakic and McFarland, where they like to not only fill holes in the here and now, but they like things that aren't rentals. Josh Manson, Arturi Lehkonen.
Yeah. No, I mean, Casey Middlestat would... We talked about him. It would be great. Somebody relayed something to me. Can't remember if it was Berto or Andy. But Elliot Friedman said... apparently that the Avs could be in on somebody that nobody's talking about right now, which would be classic Avs.
And I was looking through that today. I was looking through all the centermen today, man, and I can't find who that guy might be. I've looked up and down the stat sheet for centers this year. Could it be?
The new guy out there is Alex Kerfoot.
Nah, I don't want Kerfoot.
And Alex Wenberg of the Seattle Kraken.
See, but Wenberg isn't a person that people aren't talking about, right? Like you and I have spoken about Wenberg.
Yeah, everyone's talking about these guys. Yeah, sort of Friedman's thing. It wouldn't be either of those guys.
You and I have spoken about Wenberg in many, many previous seasons, where I think he's a fit, and unfortunately, his just production never reaches what his underlying numbers are. Who's the guy that is not currently talked about? Is it Dylan Strome in Washington? But I think he's too expensive. His cap hit is too expensive. He couldn't be Jonathan Huberdeau. It's probably not Kyle Palmieri because he doesn't fit. Philip Deneau is on the Kings, and I would love him, but the Kings are going to make the playoffs. I don't know if you want it. Florida's not going to give up Evan Rodriguez. So my thing is who isn't being talked about that fits a second center role right now? Because I've already rolled through 85 centermen, and we're down to guys who have 30 points this season. And if you have 30 points this season, don't fit in as second line center with the Avs.
Of all the centers mentioned, the one guy who makes the most Avs, like the one guy who fits the blueprint of what the Avs have done in the past, is Casey Middlestat. But he also could be a little pricey, but that could be worth it in terms of the club control you get and where he's at in his career, mid-20s, and with that club control, like he's not going to get a cheap contract, but he's not going to get an expensive contract. So, like, he's the most Arturi Lehkonen.
Like, do you think Middlestat makes 5 next year?
I could see him getting that.
4.5 at the lowest?
I think Lehkonen's like 4.5. So, he's Lehkonen 2.0.
But he plays the middle. That's the thing.
Yes.
And you automatically get a bump in pay by being a center or a centerman.
Yes.
That's the reason why Nazem Kadri isn't an Av. It's the reason why JT Compher right now is not an Av.
But he'd be a little bit cheaper than Kadri, because you can just look back on it and be like, well, then why didn't they just re-sign Kadri? Well, because Kadri is getting to his mid-30s. Like, man, did you see that goal he scored against Pittsburgh the other night?
It was beautiful.
Nice goal.
Gorgeous.
It was the same day where I was thinking, man, I'd love to see Mikko make a play like that. But this is...
Yeah, Middlestat's 25.
But this is year 2 of the Kadri contract. We'll see how that contract looks in year 4. Whereas Middlestat, you would be getting over the prime of his career. You wouldn't have to worry about those mid to late 30-year-old dips.
All right, no time to get into my my home road splits. I will save that for Between the Pipes when it comes up on Wednesday. Actually, no, I'm not going to be here Wednesday night with you.
Where are you going to be?
I'm going to be in Mexico.
All right.
I'll be on a flight late that night.
Getting your Michael Porter Jr. on. Hell yeah.
If I land in Atlanta for my layover and you're still on the air, I'll call in.
Okay.
I never mind. You guys will have to tune in to Dempsey and Company tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to get my home road splits because it's time for the NHL scoreboard before we send you guys off to bed here on Between the Pipes. Avs obviously a 5-0 victory tonight. Bruins 4-1 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. They get 2 goals from Pavel Zacha, 32 saves from Jeremy Swayman, and a 3-point night from David Pastrnak. Maple Leafs were hot. Bruins were not. They had not won a regulation game in their last 8 chances. They got one tonight in Toronto.
Oh, God. The Maple Leafs, man. The Maple Leafs, the Oilers, they could go 82-0-0. They ain't winning a cup.
Blues get a 2-1 shootout victory over the Flyers. Jordan Binnington makes 40 saves on 41 shots against Sam Ersson, 24 saves on 25 Blues shots. Pavel Buchnevich gets the shootout winner there for St. Louis, who improved to 32-26 and 3. The Blue Jackets double up the Golden Knights at home thanks to Alex Nylander's hat trick, his first hat trick of his career. Yes, a Nylander with a hat trick, but not that Nylander. Daniil Tarasov makes 37 saves on 40 Vegas shots against. The Kraken double up the Flames thanks to 2 third-period goals and a shorty from Jared McCann. Kraken 4, Flames 2 is your final. Philip Grubauer, the winning netminder there, 35 saves on 37 shots. In the game of the night, the Panthers visited the Rangers. They get their 42nd victory of the year. 2 goals from Sam Reinhart. The dude's got 44 this season. And one of them was thanks to probably the prettiest assist I've seen all year.
Yeah, I'd seen like mentions of this on Twitter, but I'd not seen the actual highlight. You showed it to me, Raj.
Man.
Yeah, it's great.
It's if you haven't seen the Alexander Barkov assist on one of the Sam Reinhart goals tonight, do yourself a favor, go to NHL.com or go to ESPN and find it, because he receives a pass through the middle of the ice on his backhand, chips it up into midair, taps it with an open blade around Keandre Miller about at rib high, stops it with his backhand as he's flying through the air because he got tripped. When his body is Bobby Orr style, parallel with the ice, goes backhand, forehand, slides a pass across the crease through a Rangers defenseman directly onto the stick of the highest scoring player on the Florida Panthers for a goal. It was nuts.
Yeah. It was like he was, juggling the puck with his stick on purpose. Like, it was just like a giant trick play for him, but it was all like, none of it was accidental. Like, it might look accidental, but no, every one of those, every time he corralled a bouncing puck, he knew exactly what he was doing with it. And one quick note on the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. Jack Eichel returned from injury. So, hey, shout out to Vegas. They're only partially circumventing the cap with Mark Stone on LTIR. Eichel is off of LTIR. Now, they have to realize, like, circumventing the cap is fun, but you have to keep them both on LTIR for the rest of the season, and you do need to get some points. So you get, like, they're healthy. You need one of them to play. You can't keep them out no matter what you want to do if you want to actually accumulate some points. But also, Adin Hill allows 5 goals tonight. One of them was an empty netter. Adin Hill allowing 5 goals. And he's quietly been one of the better goaltenders in the Western Conference this season. Here he is allowing 5 goals. Like, the goalies in the West, they're just not, you can't tell me that there's this gap between Georgiev or even our boy Justus Onanen now and the rest of the West.
All right, Spring, let's check some of our lines for Bet the Pipes tomorrow. Tuesday, March 5th's games, a whole bunch of them star Sharks. The Canucks are at the Kings. The Coyotes host the Blackhawks. Jets host the Kraken. Predators and the Canadiens. Early games on Tuesday evening. The Panthers at the Devils. The Penguins hosting the Blue Jackets. And the Bruins hosting the Edmonton Oilers. Do you have anything you love? The marquee game is certainly that Bruins-Oilers game. Bruins on the second leg of a back-to-back, but those are 2 high-flying teams. Over set at 6.5 with plus 105 being the payout. That's my favorite line of the evening. I think there's a sneaky one in there too that you could get. You can get Florida on the road at minus 115 over the Devils. But that's second of a back-to-back, so you might be scared about heavy legs. Although the New York-New Jersey back-to-back, not as bad as some.
I have 2 picks that I very much so like tomorrow night. So here we go. We're going to start with the New York Islanders at home against the St. Louis Blues. Blues play tonight, 1 in Philly. The Islanders are minus 166 on the money line. It's actually up from minus 162, so a little bit of money coming in on New York over the course of this evening. Look, St. Louis played tonight. Last time the Islanders played, they freaking crushed the Bruins. Too bad the Leafs couldn't do that tonight. Past few games, like, I'm seeing, like, the Patty Waugh juice it's like it takes a couple weeks, but maybe there's some buy-in going on, a little bit of belief starting to happen with the Patrick Waugh Islanders, and of course St. Louis playing tonight. I think the Islanders this is their game. This is the Islanders' game to win tomorrow night. So we'll go with the Islanders minus 166. And then here's a sleeper pick for you. I'm gonna parlay that with the Montreal Canadiens to go into Nashville and end the Predators' 8-game winning streak.
I love Montreal.
Montreal plus 180 on the money line. So Montreal has lost 2 2 road games in a row. But here's the thing about these 2 road games. First one, they lost in a shootout at Florida. Their last game before that, they lost in a shootout in Tampa.
Oh.
They're playing sneaky okay, and I think that, look, respect to Nashville. They played physical against the Avs. That win streak ain't lasting forever, and sometimes it happens against a plucky little team like Montreal, led by Martin St. Louis. Give me Alex Newhook, who is healthy, and the Canadiens to beat Nashville tomorrow night.
My Arizona Coyotes are the Montreal Canadiens.
Yotes
because you love the Yotes and you love how plucky they are.
I do. Ooh, actually, Arizona hosting the Blackhawks tomorrow night. Good night. That's a pretty solid juicer.
It sure is. You love the Yotes. I love the Habs.
Uh-huh.
I'll be on both. You know what? Those are my picks. Money line on both those.
I actually kind of almost want to add Arizona to that. Arizona's going to do that thing where they just lost like 13 or 14 in a row.
Rattle 7 of 8.
Yeah, no, they'll do something like that.
All right, it's going to do it for us. It's late here on a Monday night. Avs win 5-0 for Mr. Steve Nelson behind the glass. I love and appreciate you, my friend, as always.
Is that what you appreciate about me?
I love so much about you. For Mark Springer, I'm Alex Ryan-Emy. Thanks, guys, for watching on twitch.tv/AltitudeSR, for texting in 303-504-0925 on the Champ Mazda text line. This has been Between the Pipes, presented by Safeway on Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Tune in tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for Brett Kane. We'll talk to you guys Wednesday night after the Avs take on the Detroit Red Wings.